Honda, a name that today means innovation, quality, and one of the most powerful brands in the world. But back in 1922, Honda wasn't a brand. It was simply the last name of an unknown young boy. At just 15 years old, Soichiro Honda began his journey in a small repair shop in Tokyo, Japan. The shop owner didn't see much potential in the boy, assigning him only basic tasks like sweeping the floors and taking care of the children. No one could have guessed that this humble teenager, with such a modest beginning, would one day challenge industrial giants, build an empire, and change the world of motorcycles forever. He would go on to face the biggest names in the automotive industry and leave a lasting mark. But how did a boy who once looked after children grow to create one of the most valuable and iconic brands on the planet? To understand that, we need to go back to the year 1906 to a quiet village in Japan where it all began. A difficult beginning, Soichiro Honda was born in 1906 in the small village of Tenryu at the foot of Mount Fuji. His father, Gihei Honda, worked as a blacksmith and repaired bicycles in his spare time. His mother, a skilled weaver, helped support the family amidst deep financial struggles. Soichiro's childhood was marked by painful losses. 5 of his siblings died young due to health problems. Yet despite the hardship, he grew up with a natural curiosity and a keen eye for the world around him. At just 8 years old, a strange sound changed the way he saw the world. He followed the noise and discovered a machine on 4 wheels. A Ford Model T, a car like nothing he had ever seen. That moment struck him deeply. He later described it as the first car he had ever seen in his life. The excitement was overwhelming. He couldn't understand how something so big, so complex, could move by itself. As it passed by me, he recalled, without even noticing me, I found myself chasing after it down the road, running as fast as I could. That moment left a permanent mark, igniting a passion for mechanics that would shape his life, and eventually change the global auto industry. Still young, Soichiro began learning on his own, sharpening blades of farming tools, fixing bicycles, and developing a fascination with engines and machinery. But his enthusiasm didn't carry over to school. He hated studying and preferred to spend his time in his father's workshop. His grades were poor, and in an attempt to hide his performance, he used a piece of rubber to alter his report card. But the deception didn't last long. When his father found out, he punished him harshly, forcing him to kneel for an entire day without food, a painful lesson in honesty. Then, in 1922, Soichiro saw a magazine ad from a well-known automotive service company in Tokyo, Art Shokai. He thought, maybe they're looking for new hands. Motivated, he sent a letter asking for a job. To his surprise, the company responded positively. At just 15 years old, Soichiro made a bold decision. He dropped out of school, left his home, and set off for Tokyo to chase his dreams. Art Shokai. When Soichiro arrived in the capital, he was amazed by the pace of urban life, a world completely different from the quiet village where he had grown up. Upon meeting the owner of the company, Sakakibara, he was immediately assigned a task: to take care of his baby son. In the following months, Soichiro discovered that his only job was to carry the baby on his back. The disappointment was crushing. But what kept him in Tokyo wasn't hope, it was shame. He couldn't bear to return home a failure, to face his parents with nothing. Eventually, as business demands grew, Sakakibara found himself overwhelmed, and finally turned to Soichiro for help. At first, he gave him small, simple tasks. But with dedication and surprising skill, Soichiro earned his trust. Slowly, he rose within the company and became a trusted mechanic. Sakakibara saw something in him, not just mechanical talent, but potential. So he decided to train Soichiro not only in repairs, but also in the business side of operations. At the time, Art Shokai worked with both bicycles and automobiles. But cars were still a rare luxury, mostly imported and only affordable for the wealthy. Through this work, Soichiro was exposed to an incredible variety of foreign vehicles: Lincolns, Mercedes, Daimlers, and even early motorcycles that came through the shop. He immersed himself in learning, constantly improving his skills. It was through this company that he was introduced to the world of motorsports, a world that would change his life forever. In America and Europe, racing was rapidly gaining popularity, and even in Japan it had begun to grow. In 1923, Sakakibara began building race cars with the help of his team, including Soichiro. Their first model was the Art Daimler, built using a second-hand Daimler engine. The second, called the Curtiss, was crafted from an American Curtiss biplane engine, mounted onto the chassis of a Mitchell car. That vehicle competed in the 5th Japanese Motorsports Championship in 1924, and won first place, with Sakakibara's brother behind the wheel and Soichiro by his side as the lead engineer. It was a life-changing experience for the 17-year-old. From that moment on, motorsports became his true passion. It ran in his veins. A dream takes shape after years of learning, working, and growing at Art Shokai. Soichiro Honda had developed not only mechanical skill, but also a deep understanding of innovation, perseverance, and business. In 1928, with the confidence he had gained and the passion that now fueled him, he returned to his hometown and opened a branch of Art Shokai, his own workshop, where he could finally put his ideas into practice. There, Soichiro began experimenting, building, improving, failing, and trying again. He focused on creating better parts, especially piston rings, which were a key component in engine performance. But early on, his piston designs were rejected by Toyota due to quality issues. Most people would have given up, but not Soichiro. Determined to improve, he enrolled in engineering school, even though he didn't finish the program. He studied obsessively, often alone, often through trial and error. Years later, after countless failures, he succeeded. His piston rings met Toyota's standards, and he began supplying the company. It was a breakthrough moment. But just as things began to take off, disaster struck. During World War II, his factory was bombed twice. Then, a major earthquake destroyed what remained. Most would have seen this as the end. Soichiro saw it as a new beginning. With what little was left, he sold the remains of his company and used the funds to build something new. In 1946, in a war-torn country where people struggled to get around, he found a solution: motorized bicycles. He attached small engines to bicycles. Affordable, efficient, and practical. They sold fast. People loved them. Asterisk, asterisk. And that, in essence, was the birth of Honda Motor Company. Bicycles to the world stage. What began as a small idea, attaching engines to bicycles, quickly became a national success. In 1948, Soichiro Honda officially founded Honda Motor Company, limited together with his business partner Takeo Fujisawa. He began building not just machines, but a vision. They shared a dream: to create reliable, affordable, high-quality transportation for the people of Japan, and one day, for the entire world. By the 1950s, Honda had shifted from motorized bicycles to full-fledged motorcycles. Their first major success came with the Honda Dream D-Type, a lightweight, durable bike that stood out in a crowded market. But Soichiro wasn't satisfied with just dominating Japan. In 1959, Honda entered the American market, opening its first overseas subsidiary, American Honda Motor Company. It was a bold move, but one that would change history. Americans at the time saw motorcycles as dangerous or rebellious. Honda changed that perception with friendly, reliable models like the Super Cub and a catchy slogan: "You meet the nicest people on Honda." The campaign was a huge hit. Sales exploded. By the mid-1960s, Honda had become the largest motorcycle manufacturer in the world. But Soichiro wanted more. He had always dreamed of building cars, and now, with growing resources and international presence, he could. In the 1970s, while many global automakers struggled with oil crises and emission regulations, Honda introduced something revolutionary: the Civic, a compact, fuel-efficient car that met the new environmental standards without sacrificing performance. It was a game-changer. The Civic became a global success and paved the way for Honda to become a leader in the automotive world. Racing into innovation. While Honda was conquering global markets with motorcycles and cars, Soichiro never forgot the thrill of racing, the passion that first ignited his journey. To him, motorsports weren't just about speed, they were the ultimate test of engineering excellence. In 1964, Honda entered Formula One, becoming the first Japanese company to compete in the world's most elite racing championship, not just as an engine supplier, but with their own complete car built entirely in-house. People doubted them. They weren't European. They didn't have decades of racing pedigree. But in just 2 years, Honda stunned the world by winning their first Grand Prix in 1965 at the Mexican Grand Prix. That victory wasn't just about crossing the finish line. It symbolized Japan's emergence as a technological powerhouse. It was proof that Honda could compete with and beat the best. Although they left F1 in 1968 to focus on production vehicles, Honda would return again and again, becoming one of the most respected names in motorsports history, powering championship-winning teams like McLaren in the 1980s with legends such as Ayrton Senna. But racing was never just for glory. Every lap, every failure, every improvement on the track fed back into Honda's engineering, into the bikes, cars, and engines used by millions around the world. Through motorsport, Honda pushed boundaries in aerodynamics, fuel efficiency, engine performance, and safety. The racetrack became their laboratory, and the world their audience.
Soichiro Honda retired from the company in 1973 and died on the 5th of August 1991. Said, looking back on my work, I felt that I was doing nothing more than mistakes, blunders and serious omissions, but I am proud of the achievements. Although I did one mistake after another, my mistakes and failures never occurred for the same reasons. Honda has now expanded into multiple industries including jets, boats, engines, power equipment and robots to name a few.
If you enjoyed this story, like, share, and subscribe for more stories of how great companies began. What brand should we cover next?